Hi, great evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us again on another exciting upgrade mastery just for you. Yes, this is the upgrade mastery just for you with Mr. Upgrade, and you know how we do it. We do this every Fridays from 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. and we basically get to share the highlights from the week, the things we learned, the challenges we faced, the difficulties we may have encountered, and how we're able to overcome them, right? So basically, that's what we get to do on the Upgrade Mastery just for you with Mr. Upgrade. And I'm super excited to have you here join us today. It's another exciting time of fun, of learning, and of just letting your head down because guess what? It is Friday. And you know what they say? Thank God it's Friday. Yeah, so thank God it's Friday. So I'm good. I'm glad and excited to have you here. Thank you so very much for joining us. Do well to let us know where you're watching us from. If this is your first time, let us know that this is your first time. We also have a special gift for all our first timers who get to join us on the Upgrade Mastery just for you. You know, we get to do this every Fridays, right? And it's basically just a time for us to unwind, share our experience from the week, the things that stood out for us, the challenges we face, how we're able to overcome them, and what lesson we're taking away from this week that we have just experienced. Now, week has been amazing, like literally amazing, back to back things that I got to do this week. But it's not about me, it's about you, right? Let us know where you're watching us from and let us know how your week has been. Like, literally, how was your week? How was your week? Like, how was your week? What did you do? What did you do this week? What were the things that stood out for you? What were the challenges you faced? You know, this week we also do the review of our belief systems that we share during the week, right? So I'm also going to take us through that review. But before we get there, tell me first about you. How was your week? What did you do this week? What experiences did you learn or gather from this week? Like what stood out for you in this? What one thing can you look back to and say, oh, man, this was the thing that was it for me this week. I really enjoyed what we did this week. Like I was a part of this program, or I did this, or I did that. Just share with me your week. I want to know about your week because when we talk about our week, like scripture says, iron sharpens iron. So a man the countenance of his friend. So as you share, you get to learn from other people's experience, and we also get to learn from your experience, because it's possible that whatever you may be going through, there are a lot of people out there too who are going through it. So if they see how you were able to learn and overcome that situation, it gives them hope for their own situation, knowing that they too can draw reference from you and be able to overcome their own difficulties that they may be going through. Now, this week, interestingly, the podcast, Let's Talk podcast, hit another milestone of 10,300,000 listening. That's 10.3 million plays so far. That is amazing. The goal for us is to get 1 billion plays. We are not there yet, but we're going to get 1 billion plays. So we keep climbing and we keep sharing the journey with everybody. Someone said this week I got to learn that instead of fear, just pray. Yeah, we're going to talk about that as we continue. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that you've gotten answers for the things that you have prayed for this week. Because not just enough that you pray, you must also receive the answer for that thing which you have prayed for. This week, one of the things we shared this week was love to pray, right? Love to pray. We're going to talk about that as we do the review of the belief system sessions for the week. So come on, tell me, how was your week? What did you do this week? What challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? Let's just talk, right? Before we get into the main gist for today, let's just talk. Today we're going to talking about live, Live, right? Live. I said when I was talking about this conversation, I put out a post on Instagram and I said everybody dies, not everybody truly lives, right? So we're going to talk about live, what it is for you to live, what we mean when we say you live, right? That's what we're going to talk about in the main gist later. But before we get to the main gist, the side gist, when you go for an event, they give you food. They start out with the starter. So this is the starter. Tell us about your week. That's our starter. Tell us about your week. What did you do? What things did you encounter? What challenge did you face? Or what victories did you have also in the week? Like, what were the things that was, wow, phenomenal for you, right? Those are the things we want you to talk about with us before we get into the main gist, which is Live, Live, right? So while I'm waiting for you to share with me your week, and if you put it up as a comment, I'm going to also put it up on the screen so everybody gets to see it, right? Let's take a review of some of the things that we learned during this week on our belief system. By the way, the new ebook is out, Belief System. I want you to try and get a copy of the book. The ebook, Belief System, is an amazing, amazing read. You don't want to miss it. It's an amazing read, right? You don't want to miss that ebook, right? Just try and get a copy of the ebook. Okay, so let's get into the conversation. Let's get into the conversation. Okay, so let's take a review. Let's take review, and then we can make progress on our conversation, which is Live, Live. So let's take the review. So we started this week by talking about, right? We started this week by talking about wake up. Nigerian artist Chris Daniel has the song Wake Up, right? Wake up, collect your money. Oh, wow. Now, we started this week by talking about wake up because we realized that a lot of people don't even know that they are asleep. Like, they are literally asleep on their dreams, on their goals, on who they need to become. They are asleep. And we felt the need to remind people that it is time to wake up. And one of the things we said in that conversation, so just in case you miss all of this, you can always follow us on Instagram at Mr. Upgrade, and you will get to read the full article, right? It's a full article that we share every week from Monday through Fridays, right, on Belief System. A full article that you get to read that would really, really help your belief system and also improve your life, right? So let's talk about wake up, right? Let's talk about wake up. So this is what we meant when we said wake up. Very important conversation that we need you to remember, right? Remember. This is what we meant when we said wake up. So follow me closely. Started out by saying that morning is not always done. Whenever you wake up, that is your morning. So when it's daybreak, they say, oh, it's done. No, we said morning, right? Morning is not always done. And whenever a person gets to wake up, that is their morning. So some people can wake up in the noon of their life. Some people can wake up in the evening of their life, right? Whenever you wake up, that is your morning, right? And we went further to talk about the prodigal son. That was one of the stories we used to explain wake up. He said all the time that the prodigal son was suffering in the foreign land, nobody gave to him. He was in debt. He was poor. He had lost all his inheritance and all of that. And then he started to feed with swine, which, if you understand the Jewish culture, that also already is an abomination, right? Well, he was feeding with swine. But scripture says in Luke 15, verse 17, he said, and he came to himself. That was when he woke up. He came to himself and said, even in my father's house, the servants have enough to eat and to spare. So why do I stay here and languish in hunger? I would arise and go back to my father's house. So at that point, when he came to himself, that is when he woke up. So every man must come to that point in their lives where they get to wake up. You cannot push them to that point. You can only pray that they wake up early. Until that time, they will not recognize that whatever they are doing, it doesn't really profit them till the time they wake up. It will be as though scales have fallen off their eyes. Right? And went further to say that there are three simple reasons why you have to wake up. Number one, time is going. One of the reasons why you have to wake up is the fact that time is not your friend. Time don't stand still for anything. Time is going. Do something, do nothing, time will pass. So that's why you must wake up early. Number two, we said that no dream comes alive while sleeping. Right? You want your dreams to come true. You want your dream to come alive. You must wake up and stop sleeping. Right? You must wake up and stop sleeping. You want your dreams to come alive. Wake up and work on your dreams. Stop sleeping. Right? Stop sleeping. That's how you wake up, right? Because no dream comes alive while sleeping. And then the third thing was that when you wake up, you can help others to wake up because they can see you and know that this person has woken up. I have to wake up. When you wake up, you help others to wake up. Because you see, when the prodigal son came back, that was when the elder brother realized that he too had a problem. And the father had to also help him. Because he told the father that I am here. I never disobeyed. I never left. I never did anything wrong. But you've never given me a kid, a baby goat, to eat and celebrate with my friends. And the father told him that something very striking. He said, all I have is yours. You didn't even need to ask. But because he too did not wake up to the realization of who he was, that's why we're looking forward to this week's podcast, which is Rewa. Remember who you are. Right? Look forward to that episode this coming week. Last week was Bia, believe in yourself again. Next week is going to be Rewa. Remember who you are. I can't wait for that episode of the podcast. It's going to be amazing, right? Because we want a lot of people to wake up. See, we went further to say that when you don't wake up, you will sleep through life and never realizing that you are asleep. When you don't wake up, you will sleep through life, not even realizing that you are asleep. We went further to also say that wake up because nobody's coming to wake you up. It is your life, so take responsibility. You see, nobody woke the prodigal son up. He realized that I must arise and go back to my father. Also, sleep is good, no doubt, but it can be bad for you when you don't know when to wake up. So we're not saying, oh, no longer sleep anymore. No, sleep is good. But remember, scripture says a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hand, and poverty will come upon you like an armed man. Sleep is good, but know when to wake up. Know when to wake up to who you should be, right? And then we went further to also mention that when we say wake up, it is not metaphorical, but it's actually literal, right? Wake up. You don't live life asleep. And thank God for today's conversation. It is live. You don't live life asleep. So you have to wake up. You know, last week on this conversation on Friday, we talked about see. This week we're talking about live. So you see, it's more like a continuation of where we left off, so that we want you to continue to improve yourself on this journey. Remember, we tell you that upgrade is a journey. It is not a destination. It is a journey, right? And then we say, no one is coming to wake you. So wake up. This is your life, and it is time to wake up. Wake up, wake up, collect your money. I know you remember that, but beyond that, it's time that you actually do wake up. Now, we went further from that, and we went to the next day, and we talked about wake up and take action after you wake up. So it is one thing to wake up, to know that, yes, I should wake up and do what I need to do. It's another thing entirely that you take action when you wake up. So waking up will not be as fruitful as it should be if you don't take action. So we went further to say, take action after you wake up. And we explained it with some examples that will help drive home the point. We started out by saying that it is not enough to wake up. You must take action when you wake up, because that's what changes everything. You must take action when you wake up, because that's what changes everything. We went further to use the story of the prodigal son again, but this time, notice that when he said, I will arise and go back to my father, he actually began the journey back. If he had woken up and he didn't go back, he still would have died in his predicament. So it's not enough that you wake up, you must actually take action after you wake up. So suddenly you have this light bulb moment in your head. Something just spark like, wow, I should do this. The next thing is to do. I was at an event earlier today and I told them that it is not enough to hear. What is most important is what you do. Right? And I gave them the example of the question that the rich young ruler in Luke chapter 18, verse 18, asked Jesus. He said, what must I do to inherit the kingdom? What must I do? And Jesus told him what he should do. Sell all you have, go give it to the poor, and then come follow me. The scripture says he went away sorrowful. But then in Acts chapter 9, verse 6, when Saul of Tarsus encountered Christ on his way to Damascus, the first thing that Saul asked, what will you have me do? So it's not about what you know, it's about what you do. So which means when you wake up, you need to take action. You need to do something. Now that you're awake, do something. Now that you're awake, now that you're awake to your responsibility, do something. Right? So the moment he woke up, he realized he must go back home. And I always tell people this, the prodigal son didn't need to suffer any of those things he suffered. All he went through was what I would term as needless suffering. Because the day he was running out of money, he could have gone home. It was not recorded that the father forgave him because he had suffered. No, no, no. So you see, when you wake up, take action. Now, we say there are three simple ways to take action after you wake up. Number one, make new priorities. Make new priorities. You know, we have a session on priorities, so you need to go watch that session on the YouTube channel. We have a session on priority. So go watch that session so you understand what priority is all about. Right? And then we said, set new boundaries. Now that you wake up, set new boundaries. And then number three, never go back to old patterns. You have woken up now. Don't repeat old patterns. Don't go back to old patterns. Old things should truly be passed away. Don't go back to old patterns. You have woken up. Don't go back. And we said, when you wake up, don't take action to... When you wake up and don't take action, it is better you continue sleeping. When you wake up and you don't take action, it's better you continue sleeping. And we also said that some actions you take when you wake up may be painful immediately. Some actions you take when you wake up may be painful immediately. But guess what? Guess what, guys? Those actions are fruitful. They are gainful eventually. They are gainful eventually, right? And then we said that the action you take right after you wake up shows how much you really desire change. The prodigal son woke up, he went home. He went home. He didn't call people to come and analyze the situation with him. My father, forgive me, will he? No, no, no. He went home. The action you take when you wake up shows how much you truly desire change. And see, finally, to wake up is one thing. To take action after you wake up, that's the game changer. The game changer is to take action after you wake up. And then we went further from there, right? Let me just rush through this because now I'm running out of time because I really need to get into leave, right? We went further from there. We went into the real fear. The real fear. right? You know, people say fear is false evidence appearing real, right? FEAR. But let me tell you the real fear. The real fear that people have, watch this, follow me closely. People believe that fear is false evidence appearing real, but they don't yet understand the real fear, right? The real fear represents family, environment, awareness, and responsibility. That is the real fear, right? And we said that there are three simple things about the real fear. Number one, it affects you to a very large extent. That's real fear. Your family, your environment, your awareness, your responsibility, it affects you to a very large extent. Number two, it is not even talked about or addressed. Number three, many are yet to come to terms with this fear. Family, environment, awareness, responsibility. And I said here, the real fear is not a figment of your imagination. It is so real than the air that you breathe or the person standing by you. You see, until we make the choice, the decision, and the action to fix our lives, we will continue to live and suffer the effects of the real fear. Family, environment, awareness, and responsibility. That is the real fear. I see when many people say face your fears, they actually mean face the real fear. Fear of family, the fear that comes from environment, the fear that comes from family, the fear that comes from your lack of awareness, and the fear that comes from your irresponsibility. That is the real fear. That is the real fear, guys. You see, people will never become a genius because of the real fear, because of family, because of environment, because of the awareness, because of responsibility. See, guys, you need to go back and read that article on the real fear. It will really bless you. All right, I'm trying to rush down to the next thing. And then we talked about love to pray. You must love to pray, guys. You must love to pray. You must love to pray. Right? Love to pray. And I started out by saying here that whatever you love, you will give it your all. Love to pray, and you will always have the supernatural advantage in all that you do. Love to pray. And the example we used to explain that was when scripture reminds us to pray without ceasing. You only do that because you truly love to pray. You love to pray. And said you should take praying the way you take eating. Now, if you eat 3 times a day, that's a reminder that you should pray, because if you know the importance of food to your body, you'd also recognize the importance of praying. And I said there are 3 simple reasons you must love to pray. Number one, it gives you peace in all situations. You know, many times I tell people that the writer of the song Firm Foundation, Maverick CG, they had Nigeria in mind while they were writing that song, right? I still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. That is the typical Nigeria description. Joy in chaos, peace that makes no sense. Right? Praying, when you love to pray, it gives you peace in every situation. Peace. Right? Praying, it changes and fixes things. And also, it gives you the divine advantage. When you pray, it gives you the divine advantage. I went further to say that when you love to pray, you will never have to complain, murmur, or talk anyhow. When you love to pray, you will never have to complain, murmur, or talk anyhow. Until you love to pray, you will not begin to enjoy the immense benefits that comes with praying. There's so much benefit that come with praying. But until you love to pray, you will not enjoy those immense benefits. And then we went further to talk about, regardless of what life brings your way, when you love to pray, nothing is impossible for you. You're able to change things, you're able to fix things, you're able to make the impossible become possible. And then finally, we talked about those who love to pray have a unique aura about their lives, and they carry a presence with them everywhere they go. They carry a presence everywhere they go. I will wrap that up by saying, if you truly love to pray, then it shows that you truly love your life. Because pray is your life. That's why scripture reminds us to pray without ceasing. And that's why I often tell people that prayerlessness is the ultimate pride. And finally, our last conversation on the belief system was everyday reality. What is your everyday reality? What is your everyday reality? Right? And we said here that you determine your everyday reality by your choices, by your decisions, and your actions. Those are what help you determine your everyday reality. And we said here that there are three things about your everyday reality. Number one, it never happens suddenly. Number two, ignoring it doesn't change anything about it. And number three, confronting and dealing with it makes all of the difference in your everyday reality. And went further to say, you don't imagine your reality. Your reality is your reality. And until you take responsibility, it continues to be your everyday reality. Right? And we went on to say, you don't suddenly wake up in your everyday reality. Your actions led you there. Right? You don't suddenly just wake up to your everyday. No. Your actions led you to that, your everyday reality. And went further to also mention that what you once dreamed of can become your everyday reality when you do the work of turning your dream to reality. That thing that you dreamed of can become your everyday reality when you do the work of turning your dream to reality. And we concluded by saying everyday reality is an opportunity for possibility when you do what must be done. Right? So that was what we talked about all through the week from our belief system sessions, which I believe has really helped us, right? Now let's get into the conversation on leave, L-I-V-E, leave, right? When we say leave, what do we actually mean? Follow me closely. When we say leave, what do we actually mean? What is it all about that we are saying, oh, leave? What are we actually talking about when we say leave? Now, this is what leave is about. Leave, L-I-V-E, is about learning. It's about intentionality. It's about values, and it's about excellence. That is what leave is about. It's about learning. It's about intentionality. It's about values. It's about excellence. That is what leave is all about. Now, how do people actually live? How do people actually live? You know, I told us earlier that everybody dies. Not everybody truly lives. Now, how can you live while you're alive and still be living even when you're dead? You see, when we talk about people like Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Mahatma Gandhi, Mary Celeste, Margaret Thatcher, all the great names that we talk about in the world, Archbishop Idahosa, all these great names Miles Monroe, all these people that we talk about, right? These people, they live because they are no longer alive, but they still are living because of how they live. Are you getting it? They are no longer alive, but they are still living because of how they lived. Whereas there are some people who are still alive, but are not even remembered. They're not even recognized because of how they are living now. So, how do you live? Because the truth is this, follow me closely. Your level of significance and importance comes down to how you live. Somebody please write that down. Your level of significance and importance comes down to how you live. So let's take Nelson Mandela, for instance. Do you guys realize that that man was in jail for 27 years? Like, it's not 27 days, it's not 27 weeks, it's not 27 months, it's 27 years. That's 27 different Christmas and Happy New Year in jail. Can you actually picture that? Can you picture that? 27 years. But that was how he was living. That was how he was living. Yeah, your level of significance and importance comes down to how you live. Very true. Very true. Your level of significance and importance comes down to how you live. That's how you live. Now, you see, all that time, he was in jail. But then when he came out from jail, the thing that made him go to jail, he was able to defeat it. And then he was able to establish a new South Africa. A new South Africa. Because he eventually contested in the election and he won and he became the president of South Africa. And now today you cannot talk about South Africa without Nelson Mandela. Just the same way you cannot talk about the gospel in Africa without talking about Archbishop Idahosa. So how do you really live that you can make a mark even long after you are gone? You are still talked about. Now, even in scripture, the woman with the alabaster box that broke alabaster box and used the perfume to wash Jesus' feet and use her hair to wipe it. Jesus said, wherever the gospel of the kingdom is preached, it will be remembered for her as a memorial. That singular act was what summarized how she lived. But you see, in that singular act is what we'll be explaining today. Learning, intentionality, values, excellence. So you really want to live, irrespective of the country you find yourself or the economic situation you find yourself. This is how you live. This is how you live. So the L in live is learning. Every single day is an opportunity for you to learn. Every single day. You know, I often tell this to people and I say that opportunity don't come but once. Opportunity comes every day. But the day you take advantage of your opportunity, that becomes your wants. Every single day is an opportunity for learning. So the question now is, what are you learning? Because what you are learning is impacting on how you live. What you're learning. And the interesting part is this. The human mind is like a sponge. It soaks up everything that comes to it. It soaks up everything. It doesn't literally filter. It's you that do the filtering. Your mind just takes in everything. That's why your learning must be intentional, because it's going to affect how you live. So what are you learning every day? I know the truth is this: whatever you are learning is either weakening your resolve or strengthening your resolve. Whatever you're learning, is either going to weaken your resolve or it's going to strengthen your resolve, whatever it is you're learning. So every day you are learning. Every single day you are learning. So when you come online, for instance, when you scroll through Instagram or you go through TikTok or you go through Snapchat, right? When you see all those feeds, all those reels, you're learning something from them. Whether you say, oh, there's nothing like a mindless scrolling, because your mind sees, and you're learning through what your mind sees, and that's going to also affect how you live because of what you have learned. Today I said something very, very profound. I said that we're all born smart, but we learned our foolishness. We're all born smart. We just find a way to learn our foolishness. Why? Because we are learning every single day. Every day we are learning. Every single day we are learning. Every single day we are learning. We're all born smart. So the L in live is learning. Learning. So you must pay attention to the things that you are learning, because it's going to have a significant impact in your living. It's going to have a significant impact in your living. What you are learning is going to have a significant impact. It's going to have a significant impact in your living. If you want to truly live, you must learn the right things. Not just anything, the right things. It's when you learn the right things, you can be able to live your life for a cause. We often tell people, you live your life for a cause and not for applause. It's when you have learned. It's when you have learned. Haven't you noticed that even God cannot use you until He trains you? Have you not noticed that? Even God cannot use you until He trains you, because you must learn. How is that possible? Remember in scripture when Moses realized that he was the deliverer. And guess what? He saw an Egyptian and a Jew fighting, and he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. And then another day he saw two Jews fighting among themselves. And he says, that you're brothers, why are you fighting yourselves? And he said to him, are you going to kill us like you killed the other Egyptian? And then Moses said, Jesus, hey, they don't catch me, they don't catch me, they don't catch me. And he fled. But while he fled, then he was going through his own level of training, right? Till he had the encounter at the burning bush. And then God said, okay, now, Moses, you're ready for you to now go back and free my people. So God can't use you until He trains you. They tell us that God does not call the qualified, but He qualifies the called. Are you getting it? He qualifies the called, which means He gets you through training so He can use you. Scripture tells you to come as you are, but it doesn't leave you as you are. Because there's learning that you must do. That's what Scripture talks about renewing the mind. Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is learning. So God cannot even use you if He does not train you. Yes, He can call you, but He has to train you. You see, when those men came to David, they were in debt, they were in distress, they were discontented. David had to train them before they became his mighty men. It was not the men that were in debt or discontented or in distress that suddenly became the mighty men. It was after they had been trained by David. Which leads me to tell you that very soon I'm going to share with everybody the curriculum of upgrade. The thing you go through that you say, okay, you've upgraded. The curriculum of upgrade is going to come out as a short course, right? The curriculum of upgrade. So you go through it and you know that, yes, I have been upgraded. Yes. Because there was something those guys went through in the cave of Adullam that they became mighty men. One of those David's men killed over 800 Philistines in one fight. One of those men. One of those men killed also Goliath's brother. That was a giant too. Among those men, 3 of them broke into the camp of the Philistines to get water for David, broke into the Amalekite camp to get water from the camp of David. But they became that because of the learning that they had. They didn't come as mighty men. They came as men in debt, in distress, discontented. But after their learning, they became mighty men. See, guys, I always tell people that those who bleed in training those who sweat in training do not bleed in battle. Those who sweat in training do not bleed in battle because they have been learning. They have been learning. What have you been learning? See, the level of your life will reflect your learning. You know, they even tell you that your learning determines your earning. Haven't you heard that? They say your learning determines your earning. So if you are not learning, it's going to affect how you live. It's going to affect it. Because the things that you should outgrow, you will not because you are not learning. And the truth is this, every day is an opportunity for you to learn. Every day. Every day is an opportunity for you to learn. The I in live is intentionality. See, if you truly want to live, you must become a person of intentionality. You must become so intentional. See, guys, you must understand this. If you are not intentional, you have not started living. You have not started. You are still playing around. Because when you become intentional, guess what? You become disciplined. You begin to realize that not everything that is for you. You know, I often say this, that all that is good to you is not good for you. You become very intentional. You understand the difference between separation and isolation. Because of how intentional you are, because you know that at some seasons in your life, you will be separated. Does not mean you are isolated. You're going to be separated from people because of how intentional you are. Even the good book reminds us that do not cast pear among swine. You must be intentional. Jesus was so intentional that when he took the good news to his hometown, they did not receive him. He couldn't do mighty works. He left. He did not force himself on them. He left. He left them. And then he mentioned that a prophet is honored everywhere except in his hometown. See, guys, you must be intentional. If you are not intentional, thank you so much for that. If you are not intentional, you have not started living. You have not started living. You are still merely surviving. You always hear people say, oh, it's survival of the fittest, right? It's survival. We're trying to survive. When you are intentional, you don't survive, you thrive. I'll say that again. When you are intentional, you don't survive, you thrive. And to live, you must be intentional. You are not called to everybody. Paul said, I can do all things. He did not do all things. He was intentional about preaching the gospel to the Gentiles. He was that intentional. He said, I must see Rome. Even when they told him that this is how you are going to be born, he said, I'm not only willing to be born for the gospel, I'm also willing to die. How intentional was he? How intentional are you? How intentional are you? To live, you must be intentional. You can't be found everywhere. You are not air. You can't be everywhere. You're not air. It's only air that's everywhere. You are not air. So why are you everywhere? Be intentional. Know where to go and not to go. Know where to be and not to be. Be intentional. That's how you live. All the people I mentioned earlier, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, all these people were people who were intentional. Intentional. If you really want to live, you need to be intentional. Jesus said, I must walk the works of him that sent me while it is day. Intentional. For night comes when no man can walk. Intentional. I must do the will of my Father and to finish the course. Intentional. Paul said, I have fought a good fight. I have kept the faith. I have finished my course. Intentional. That's how you live. Intentional. Not today I'm doing this, tomorrow I'm doing this, next tomorrow I'm doing this. You're just going haphazardly. You are not intentional. You're everywhere. You're not intentional. If everybody is your friend, you are not intentional. I'll say that again. If everybody is your friend, you are not intentional. Because everybody cannot be your friend. Everybody cannot like you. You are not jollof rice, neither are you ice cream. Everybody can like you. When you live, it's intentional. And now, the V, when you live, values. What are your values? Like, what are your values? One of the easiest way I answer this for people, I say you always know what a person values by two things: how they spend their time and how they spend their money. That's how you know whatever a person values. Those two things: how they spend their time and how they spend their money. What are your values? That's how you live. When they say, if you don't have something if you don't stand for something, you would fall for anything. That's because of values. Because it is your values that gives you value. It is your values that gives you value. What are your values? That's how you live. Nelson Mandela stood for his values. Even when they told him they were going to let him out, he said no. Until apartheid is stopped in South Africa. What are your values? The reason you will compromise, the reason you will cut corners is because you don't have values. When you don't have values, you are not truly living. Because when people look back at your life, it is the values that you've held on to that you can see. What are your values? What are your values? To truly live, you must have values. values? What are your values? What are your values? Remember, I tell you, you know whatever a person values by how they spend their time and how they spend their money. I'm not going to tell you what your value should be. I'm going to tell you that you should have values because that's how you live. A life without values is not worth living. A life without values is not worth living. A life without values is not worth living. What are your values? Your values help you have value. It's your values that give you value. So, what are your values? Yes, it's your values that give you value. The values that you have is what gives you value. There are people who have no value. There are people who have low value. There are people who have poor value. And there are people who have rich and high values. What are your values? Is it no value? Is it low value? Is it poor value? Or is it rich and high values? What are your values? That's how you live, guys. That's how you live, right? And the E in live is excellence. Remember this: average don't win awards. Average don't win awards. You must become a person of excellence. And excellence, like I always tell people everywhere I go, excellence is simply paying attention to details. Paying attention to details. That's excellence. Paying attention to details. And it's easy for anyone to develop the culture of excellence because excellence is a culture and a lifestyle. It's not an event. You know what you do once and no. It's a culture. It's an event. Not an event. It's a culture and a lifestyle. Not an event. Excellence is not an event. No, just go for something and say, oh, the excellent event. No. Excellence is a culture and a lifestyle. It is paying attention to details. Guys, this is how you live. This is how you live. Learning, intentional, values, excellence. This is how you live. And if you want to be remembered long after you have gone, this is how you should live. So you keep living even if you are no longer here. Because those people I mentioned, they are long dead, but they are still living because of how they live. So it's how you live that makes you become a reference even after you leave. Did you get that? How you live, L-I-V-E, that makes you a reference even after you leave, L-E-A-V-E. So guys, this is our conversation for today. Live. And I want you to actually live. I want you to live. There's so many resources we have here on our YouTube channel that would help you to learn. And the resources are intentional, our podcasts are intentional. And there are things that give you value. And there are things that show you how you can be excellent. This is how you live, guys. This is how you live. Yes, thank you so much. It is how you live that makes you a reference even after you leave. How you live. How you live. So guys, at this point, I want to take a few questions. Thank you so much for all the feedback, Sunshine. Thank you so very much. You're just an amazing person. Thank you so very much, right? Let's take a few questions. Anyone who have a question that they may want to ask, let's take a few questions before we call this a wrap. I've enjoyed this session, from the review of the belief system for the week and into the session itself on leave. Man, I've loved this session. I have loved this session. And I thank you so much for being here. Those of you who come back and watch a replay, please do leave a comment, or you can also leave a question if you have any question while you watch a replay, and we'll get to help answer that question, right? We'll get to help answer that question. So, guys, let's take a few questions, 1 or 2 questions before we call it a wrap for today's conversation. I've had a good time, right? I don't know about you, but I've had a good time. And if you are not following us, guys, if you are not subscribed or turn on post notification, what is your excuse? That's not how to live. That's not how to live. Turn on post notification. Share this with other people. Tell your friends and your enemies to follow, subscribe, and to be part of the conversation. Because trust me, this is an amazing journey that anyone you know should be a part of. Like we said, upgrade is not a destination, it is a journey. And everybody must be on their upgrade mastery journey, right? Because there's always more for you as a person. And that's why you must begin your upgrade mastery journey. And like we always say, the journey you don't start never begins. So this is the best time for you to start your upgrade journey. This is the best time for you to start. So let's take a few questions before we call this a wrap. A few questions, and then we'll call this a close. All right. Someone says, can there be learning without intentionality? I love this question. Can there be learning without intentionality? Yes, there can be learning without intentionality. Let me give you an example. When you're in a bus, right, a public transport, when you're in a bus and they're playing a song on the radio, do you notice that unconsciously you get to learn that song that's being played, especially when you're traveling? Let's say you're traveling on a road trip, you're in a bus, and they're playing a certain song while you're traveling. You notice that by the time you arrive your destination from that trip, you now know that song that was being played in the bus while you were traveling. You did not intentionally learn the song, but because of the environment, you learned it. So yes, there can be learning without intentionality. Because the environment you put yourself, remember I told you earlier that the human mind is a sponge. It's like a sponge. It soaks up everything that comes in contact with. It's soaking up everything from the environment. That's why I told you that there's no mindless scrolling. Say you're on TikTok, you're just scrolling mindlessly. There's no mindless scrolling. No. So no, I'm on Instagram, I'm just surfing the web. I'm not doing anything. I'm just scrolling. No. You are learning because your mind is taking up all those information it's seeing. So yes, they can be learning without intentionality. Most of the bad swear words that young kids know, did anybody sit them down to teach them? No, they learned it. They didn't plan to learn it. They learned it from observation. They learned it from what they saw other people do. So yes, they can be learning without intentionality. And that's why we say that you must be intentional about your learning. You must put yourself in the environment that helps you to learn what you truly want to learn. So you see, environment is very powerful. Don't worry, one of these I'm going to talk to us about environment. Environment is very powerful. See, in some environments, your willpower will become weak. In some environments, your willpower will become weak. Why did you think that Joseph had to flee from Potiphar's wife? Why didn't he stand and be speaking in tongues? In some environments, your willpower becomes weak. Environment is powerful. But that's a conversation for another day. And yes, thank you for that question. There can be learning without intentionality. Yes. That's why you must intentionally learn. Like when you're here, you are intentionally learning. This is intentional learning. This one, joining the Upgrade, Mr. Upgrade Global channel on YouTube, is intentional learning. So yes, of the truth, there can be learning without intentionality. Thank you for that question. Any other question? Let's take one more question and we'll call it a wrap. One more question and we'll call it a wrap. Just one more question. One more question and we'll call it a wrap for today. One more question, guys. I need one more question and we'll call it a wrap. I really appreciate everybody for being here from the beginning to the end. Thank you so very much. You guys are the real VAP. You are the real value adding personality. Thank you. I'm super grateful. Thank you for being here. Right. One more question. Just take one more question and then last question. Last question. Last question. Where you at? Who's going to ask this? Right? We'll just wait for a few seconds and we'll call it a wrap. Thank you so very much, guys. And this made sense for you. Like I told you, it's not just what you know, it's about what you do. And I want you to go do something, go do the right thing with what you have learned today. Last question. Is it okay for one's value to change over time? Is it okay for one's values to change over time? Well, I don't necessarily think your values will change. I feel your values would upgrade. Right? Let's say, for instance, one of your values, let's say one of your values are integrity. Right? You're not going to change from integrity to now be somebody who doesn't have integrity anymore. But you're going to keep having integrity in different situations. So I don't think your values will change. I think your values would upgrade with time. Right? Let's say your value also is punctuality. You're not going to change your punctuality to not become a person who's always late. No. Your values will not change, but they would upgrade with time. So yes, thank you for that question. Your values won't change, but they would upgrade with time. I think we've run out of time for today. Thank you so very much for all of you who have joined this session today. You guys are amazing. You are the best. Like we always say, that there is more. There is more on the upgrade side of life. So we encourage you to leave good behind so that you can upgrade. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next Friday. And God bless you.